this is nothing like the challenges faced then. So I think the international community is up to dealing with this.
Okay, we're back to.
I think the prognosis is good.
We're back to live pictures, by the way, in Caracas. We showed you some video from moments before when a military vehicle was set on fire by the protesters. You mentioned the criminal element as we're looking at. Now, I'm not sure that these are colectivos, the mobs that were attacking the protesters. I think these are in fact part of the protests, but the really corrupt element includes, of course, a lot of very big-time drug dealers who use Venezuela as a means of getting their drugs into the United States and Europe. Those elements are probably going to remain no matter who's in power, right?
Right, and there are militias that work for the government. Those guys they're not going anywhere. Nobody's going to give them a plane ride to Moscow or Havana. So yeah, we shouldn't be, like I said, Pollyannish about this and think it's going to turn into the land of milk and honey. But again, Venezuela is a resource-rich country. It has a relatively well-educated population. They don't really have a lot of kind of internal ethnic strife and everything else. You've got a region that's supportive. There's a lot of pluses, constructive pluses here. Compare that to Syria. I mean, Syria is probably equally on its back, but nobody thinks Syria is going to get rebuilt in a New York minute. I mean, the challenges of Venezuela, are nothing like what we see in Syria and other countries. So,
Jim,
the odds are with them, I think.
Jim, can you quantify that with any sort of a timeline? I know that you're talking about quickly, but what does that mean in terms of when they might see some level of stability and when we could potentially see some actual economic growth out of the region should things go the way that we hope they go?
Well, I think it would be less than a year from the conditions that we are now of abject poverty and essentially no economy to where people have a semblance that they can feed their families and they can live in somewhat peace. And I think, in the case of Venezuela, we're 3 to 5 years to where you're back to something that looks like something. But then again, that's assuming that you elect a government that is not corrupt, that works well with the international community in rebuilding, and you have good regional support.